expected to have nails which exceed a certain length. They can't wear face caps, and they can't have artificial eyelashes. And are you 100% in support of this?
That's a very beautiful question. At first, because I listened to what the students said, at first I was one that believed in self-expression, and I still do, but working in the university and seeing so many things, that happen with allowing students to just wear what they like and express themselves as they deem fit. I believe that the wearing of or having a dress code for the university is quite necessary, because when you weigh the pros of using uniform to the cons of not having uniform, then you will begin to, maybe change your mind to students using uniforms. Previously, I didn't really buy that idea, of uniforms. I felt that students, young adults, should be allowed to just express themselves. But there's something that I want to just point out, in expressing yourself, showing consideration or having consideration for others is also a sign of maturity. In as much as you want to express yourself, having some form of consideration for others is a sign of maturity.
Okay, and I'm curious about this. Why was it necessary for the university to actually introduce this dress code at this particular time?
The reason for it was because a lot of students were shifting their focus from studying to dressing, trying to impress, trying to be like others, spending so much money, on trying to just wear something that they felt would be acceptable to other students and all that, So there was a lot of competition in the university. And there was also some people stealing people's things, just to keep up with the Joneses, So, and then there was, I made a comment about showing consideration, in as much as you're expressing yourself, having that consideration for others is a sign of maturity. Now, you started off with the faith-based schools. There's a reason why parents send their children to faith-based schools. And much of it is for discipline, and then there's a standard that those faith-based schools want to maintain because of their religion. Okay, so if you're going to come to a school like that, then you have to also cushion your mind to the fact that it's only considerate, to keep to the tenets of that religious organization, So it's painful, when you see students, sometimes like the girls, sometimes they come in extremely short dresses, dresses that you're thinking that are blouses, and then they're telling you that they are dresses, the chest is exposed, the laps exposed, and then they're taking classes, from priests. It doesn't show much consideration for the belief of the lecturer who is possibly a priest that is teaching, So some of these things cause a lot of distractions. And then you also have some of the boys who come in with face caps and ripped jeans and all that, and then the jeans are down, halfway down their bottoms. Now the face caps cover their faces. Now when the lecturers are teaching in the halls, they can't make eye contact. You don't know whether the student is listening or not. And then for coming to a private institution, parents want the best for their children. They want the children to be able to learn and get something out of the university. So if the lecturer is unable to make eye contact to know whether the student is actually taking in what is being taught, because of the face cap and all that, so it makes it really, really difficult. And then one thing we also have to remember is that the university should prepare students for life outside the university. Now, there are certain professions that you get into, they still wear uniform. In the banks, they may not necessarily tell you must wear this particular color, but you must be smart. And then in quite a few other establishments, you're expected to dress smartly. So if you cultivate the habit of dressing smartly, then it wouldn't be a problem when you leave the university. Yes, I've heard people say it's against democracy and all that. But what about when you now start to work and those uniforms are imposed on you? Isn't it still against democracy? So it's just a question of preparing your mind and understanding the concept, and that's how I see it.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue the conversation. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you've got a question, you've got a comment, an observation. I see the phone lines blinking, but we'll take your phone calls in just a few minutes on the other side. This is Smooth 98.1.
Future Forward Banking.
Okay, we'll be back on in about a minute.
Okay. Yep.
We believe that banking should be all about you and your business and how to get you to the next level. If you do not already have a Providus bank account, please speak with our business concierge on 0700 77 684 387 or email businessconcierge@providusbank.com to switch to a future forward banking experience. Providus Bank, future forward banking.
Start your day the smooth breakfast way. Always fresh. Weekday mornings on Smooth 98.1.
Smooth 98.1. This is a Lagos Talk. Yes, Lagos, we are talking. We're talking about dress code in universities. Now, several universities here in Nigeria have imposed a dress code on students. Now, some of these rules with regards dressing affect sometimes jewelry, sometimes the length of clothes, the amount of skin that can be shown, and even head covering. The telephone number to call 01448991. Let's go on to the phone lines. Good morning. All right, Soji, go ahead, please.
I, Soji, will tell you that certainly all this has been expected when the private universities started imposing the way and manner students should dress, and the aspect that they do not even allow them to go out. They have to get exits for them to go out, should in case they needed to go out. Universities are meant to develop adults, and that is the way I've seen it. But the aspect that private universities now started introducing various aspects, even to an extent, they do not even allow them to cook, or the hostel they live, they are being curtailed, being monitored, all those type of things. Then how do we develop adults? That's the reason why when you see some parents now, even taking their children, their ward to secondary school, you see the way they even dress. It's really appalling. These are parents. Will you believe such? Then how do you now want to curtail the students that are real students from dressing? This thing needs to be inculcated into individuals. Let them grow up as adults. Look at the TV stations. Look at the way the hair, even with boys, men, doing their hair. Look at what is being done. That we in those days we consider them to be shogos, but these are the things being portrayed now on television. Curtail that first before you now go into university. People will learn and develop their way of life. Even the ladies speaking in the university. I don't know how all this thing came about. We can see the rate we have degenerated into to an extent. I remember when I was in university then, there wasn't anything. We curtail ourselves. Even the lecturers, the way we even relate with our lecturers is different, but the world is now going degenerating. And these are the things we are now trying to bring about. No. The university should concern themselves with lecturing and giving moral education to the students. It's not the aspect that you now curtail, you now make more dress code, all this. It's not the issue. To me, it is not the issue. Let us lead by examples and lay proper examples to our people. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Soji. Let's go on to the phone lines. Good morning. Hi. All right. Go ahead, please.
Well, first off, let me say start by saying that what the lady, your guest is trying to say as far as I'm concerned, is neither here nor there. It's neither here nor there in the sense that university is a place where you go to develop and mature and become who you want to become in society. So when the university is not trying to minimize your freedom or how you tend to develop yourself, I think I had a issue with that. I listened to all the points you made, all the points you highlighted and all those things. But truth of the matter is that those things does not necessarily stop you from becoming who you are. Truth of the matter is that whoever wants to become wayward will become wayward. Whoever wants to become useful will become useful. What they should be admonishing is the place of decency and also a place of decency and modesty. But not trying to come and tell us that students wearing uniform will actually maybe kind of shape them, maybe try to be like better somebody in society and all this thing. I don't believe in that. Let me even ask a question. The place where we actually learn this concept from this university, the place where we got it from, that is from the West. Do they have all these rules and regulations being imposed on the students? I'm looking at the matter that whether uniform or not, it doesn't change anything, like I said. Does that impact on the level of education? Does that impact on the level of intelligence in the students? The answer is no. In most of federal universities today, before you walk into the campus, you clearly see it at the gate. You see the rules and regulations, the dressing code, how you're expected to dress and how you're not expected to dress. Now I'm saying that even wearing uniform maybe kind of improve the students or maybe kind of made them reduce competition and all those things. Even the uniform we actually tend to what they call increase the place of competition, because maybe if this person is wearing t-shirt and this person is wearing shirt, it will actually break competition among the students. So as long as students wear whatever they want to wear, even like I said, try to what is it called now? Let there be modesty and let there be decency. So let us not actually maybe kind of begin to make mountains out of nothing. Well, as far as I understand that they are private university and they are faith-based institutions, so I believe that those are taking their work there to actually know the terms and conditions. But in general, a university should be where people have some kind of freedom and not maybe where they actually go and not trying to maybe kind of subdue them to a secondary school or so. As far as I'm concerned, it's neither here nor there.
Okay.
They come to let there be modesty and decency among them.
All right. Thank you for your message and your calls. I see them coming through, but let's come to our guest, Lady Jane. Lady Jane is the Director of Student Mentorship and Parent Relations, and she's also the Head of Admissions. Lady Jane, I want to ask, were the students involved in this decision-making process before this rule was adopted?
Well, there was a meeting informing students, and at first it was all about them giving the different faculties colors, to wear, and on black trousers and black skirts. Now, this new dress code that extended to hair color and eyelashes and all those things, It came as a result of what the university began to witness with students. Now, the last scholar talked about freedom. Yes, I agree with freedom, but freedom must also come with responsibility, Now, if as a director of student mentorship and parents relations, I get a lot of calls and text messages from parents asking why their children are requesting for so much money, more than what the institution has asked them to bring. Sometimes you find students that are having to double, the fees and all sorts of requirements from the institution. Now, I'm not saying that they're using it to buy dresses and all that, but they could be, because I have seen a lot of girls, because there's that peer pressure, when you see other students, with their lashes, with their expensive dresses and all sorts of things, you want to keep up. You want to belong. You want to be part of them, especially if you're sharing the same hostel space. So in order to avoid all that, that's why the university felt it necessary for students to use uniforms. So each faculty has a color, that they wear that identifies them with that faculty. Now, it's also for their own safety, because the other caller mentioned they're having to take exits to go out and things like that. Do you know, I have had to deal with cases of missing students, So if students are just allowed to roam around and things like that, these same parents come back and call. I have not seen my child. I can't reach my child. And then we begin to investigate, and then we find out some of them have disappeared, without permission and things like that. And if anything goes wrong, it's still the institution that has to answer to that. Yes, he said things were not like that during his time. Yes, things were not like that during my time, but things have changed. There's so much insecurity in the nation all over. So we need to be able to identify our students and then also intruders, because when they're not in that particular color in the campus, it's easy to question, where are you coming from? Who are you? Now, the university in Niger Delta, that was what I read. They had the unknown, unidentified gunmen, that came in. I think they must have been cultists or something that shot a student in the head, which was why the institution now introduced uniforms, which the students are kicking against, for their own safety. Now, the other caller was also mentioning that the Western world is where we learn many things from. Do they have uniforms? He'll be very surprised to know that some of the institutions do. Oxford has academic uniform. Harvard has, and then
those are for special occasions, though. They don't really
not only just special occasions, not only just special occasions, but also for certain studies. Yes, certain studies they have to use the uniform. And especially
in Nigeria, the law school, lawyers have to wear black and white in most universities.
Exactly. The medical students, some of the professions request that uniform, so it prepares them for the life after the university. Now, even in Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, many of these places also use uniforms. I know we may not be looking at those areas, because most times we try to take a cue from America or Britain.
But there's also countries that have faced criticism for their human rights.
Exactly. They have. But this, where, okay, I read the account of this Niger Delta University, that is also saying that they have to get the uniforms from them. you know, at the cost of 20 to 30,000 and all that. And the students felt it was exploitated. You know, yes, it could be exploitated, you know, when you consider the environment, you know, because even as you're imposing the uniforms and things, you also have to consider the environment, the economic capacity of the people, you know, and what has been obtainable in the past. Now, in Godfrey, we're not the ones providing the uniforms. So all we have done is, if you have black skirt or black trouser, and most people have that in their wardrobes, you know, and then you wear a burgundy shirt for the Faculty of Arts, yellow for the Faculty of Education, you know, and white for law. So many people already have these uniforms, you know, these colors. And then we, you know, somebody mentioned about competition, whether it's a t-shirt or a cotton shirt. We insist on a cotton shirt and not even the t-shirts anymore, because at first it started with t-shirts and people were now wearing all manner of things. So these simple cotton shirts, whether short sleeve or long sleeve, it's all up to the person, you know, so they can use that. And then it's easy. So they can get it anywhere. They can get it from the, what do they call it? Second-hand shops. They can get it brand new, you know, all at their pocket level, you know. Okay. So nobody is really imposing anything so much, you know.
All right, let's take a quick break and we'll continue the conversation. I see lots of messages coming in. The phone lines are blinking. We'll take your phone calls and your messages on the other side. We're talking about dress code in universities. Now, certain universities here in Nigeria, federal universities, state universities, and private universities have imposed dress codes on how students can actually appear while on campus. This is Smooth 98.1. Okay, we'll be back on in about a minute.
Or email businessconcierge@providusbank.com to switch to a future forward banking experience. Providus Bank. Future forward banking.
Okay, we're coming back. You're listening to Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. We're talking about dress code in universities, and we have a special guest joining us. She works in the university environment, Lady Jane Kalu Ndukwe, Director of Student Mentorship and Parent Relations. She's also the head of admissions at Godfrey Okoye University. Let's take a phone call. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Gary Newton.
All right, Gary Newton, go ahead, please.
So before I start, I have to just read this. This is from my certificate. I just want to read this line. It said, have satisfied all the requirements of the university and passed the prescribed examination ahead of passing to academic session. Such persons, just by name, I don't want to read those numbers, and be admitted to the degree of Bachelor of this, of this, and that. Now, why do I have to read this? Yes, it is a good thing that they have to come up with a dress code for the university, for the students. To me, yeah, I would say it's a welcome development. But the first thing I need to ask is this particular new rule that just bringing in, is it in their constitution? Is it in the university constitution prior to this time? Because I can recall back then when I was in school, there were some changes that were made. And for those who came in before those changes were made, we are not affected. You can't tell me I applied to your university based on what I saw as a constitution and what I actually associated with. Among in the game, you started to change the rules, and you are are you saying that I can sue the university, or if I refuse to play along with these rules, what will happen? Are you saying that you will expel me? Will you pay me for the time I've wasted? So I think it should be a reconsideration. That said, like the other callers also said, see, a university is a place where students are supposed to know that actions have consequences. The type of life you live in the university will determine how you come out. But there are people that need to go through a certain path in order to hit the rock bottom. Yes, she was explaining about parents complaining, calling the university that they've not seen their children. See, a university is not a secondary school, for God's sake.
But the university should still have some responsibility on the part of everyone within the society, right?
As far as I was concerned, everybody, whether you were admitted or non-admitted, I believe you should have the right to even enter the lecture hall. And you don't have certification. Because if you do that certification, people can prove that I went through this university. Not by showing your... I know of people who graduated with me at the same time, or they were paying school. At the end, they were not admitted. It was fake admission. You understand? But they had everything. They had...
So you're saying the ID is more important than the dress code, than the uniform? Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, Gary, but that's all the time we can take with your phone call. We have so many calls coming through.
To their academic performance, more importantly, let us not shift their focus. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Gary, for your call. Let's go on to the phone lines. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Very well. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I think what people need to understand is that times change. Yeah, people keep saying in my own time. In my own time, people were dressing decently. The kind of dresses people wear now is just fashionable to be naked, more or less. And you can't allow people to come into lecture halls naked. You understand? There are so many things that have changed from those times. I agree there is need for a dress code, though I don't think we should get to the extent of imposing uniforms on anybody. We don't need to have uniforms, but we need to have dress codes. We need to say, this is what is acceptable, this is not what is acceptable.
All right. Thank you so much for calling. I think we can take another phone call. Good morning. All right. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Please just go ahead. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I know Lady Jane is listening by Zoom to this show. And I'd like to know if she's come on here with a mindset of, or if she's here to take note and go back for reconsideration. Otherwise, this radio call becomes of no use. Okay, and if that's the case, to take notes, these are some of the things that should have been done first before imposing dress codes on the university that already have the constitution. She said something earlier on as part of the reasons why they have to do that. Let me quote. She said, freedom comes with responsibility. Okay. But I'd like to correct, yes, freedom comes with responsibility, but not when responsibility is imposed. Okay. I understand there are moral standards that have to be curtailed in university. And the private universities are not just the only one. This is the same thing that affects all the other universities. There are ways to go about that. We've come this modern generation, we've come so far, we don't have to be rigid. I will digress a little bit by telling you, even in the corporate standard, in the corporate environment, in the working environment, in the past, the dress codes, they are dress codes which have to be corporate. But did that make people more productive? The answer is no. Okay, even that particular person. And during that particular period, we've had several other corporations that have come up with their own style of dress code and management, like Google, like the blue chip company. They allow free will. They allow you to wear t-shirts, you wear jeans. I mean, those are not the things that they need, okay? And they don't want those restrictions. Anyway, back to what we're saying. It's imposing uniforms on a university. University is supposed to be a place where students are supposed to express themselves. That at that stage in life is all about stages. Okay, you get to a particular stage, you have to experience it. It's just like a teenager. A teenager does what a teenager does, but you cannot completely tell a teenager no. You have to let the teenager understand the consequences of his or her action. That way, he or she takes correction. But when you begin to impose the person is trying to do, but I think they've just gone in excess. Okay, and I will appreciate if Lady J is listening. I know she will have a point, but don't come with a mindset of take notes, go back to university and review some of these things, some of those points. That way you'll be able to achieve what you want to achieve. You can still achieve it, but not through a special uniform, a special code of this.
All right.
This is this and this is that. Then we have people who that have dreadlocks, and you know say, oh, because everybody's sure you have it. Because that person has a dreadlock, then you won't want to employ that person. You are going to lose as a couple.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling and sharing your thoughts. Thank you. Thank you so much. Lady Jane, I want to ask, and this is coming off what the caller said, is there a system that has been put in place that would monitor the potential benefits that this new rule would have on the academic community, whether it's on staff and or students generally?
That is something that the university has to put in place, you know, because the dress code was announced as we got back this year, and we're yet to measure the benefits, you know, of the dress codes. So that is one area that I would like to also share with my Vice Chancellor when I return. And just to help the last caller, you know, alleviate his fears that I possibly came with a mindset. At the beginning of this interview, I said I was not in support of dress codes, you know, because even when my son got admission into Covenant, you know, and we were told the dress code and all, I kicked against it. You know, and I was all these excuses, all these reasons, sorry, not excuses, all these reasons that are being given. I was giving those reasons, you know, until I started to work in the university community. And then also began to see a little bit beyond, you know, what I had seen previously. Remember, I also mentioned that not only freedom coming with responsibility, that responsibility is not an imposed responsibility. It's the individual being able to make wise choices with the freedom given to him or her. You know, we've talked about consequences and all that. We talked about decency and modesty. How do we promote that if we don't practice it? If I stand before you and keep going on about decency and the need to be modest, and then we don't put anything in place, to ensure that we practice that. It's just, as if I'm just talking to the wind. So when you put something in place, when you begin to practice it, then you begin to showcase that decency and modesty. And then there's also something else that I mentioned, at the beginning. I said, I am all for self-expression, but having consideration for others shows maturity. So in as much as I want to express myself, if I come out virtually naked, I'm not showing consideration for other people who may not really want to see me naked. They also have a right, to see what they want to see and to have a life, a space where they can also express themselves. So it's all about making wise choices. It's all about having that maturity, that responsibility. Somebody has given you the freedom, wear what you want. But in as much as you're wearing what you want, also consider the other human being, who may not necessarily wish to wear what you're wearing, because the person is also expressing himself or herself. I'll give you an example. When my daughter got into Godfrey Okoye University, and this was before the dress codes and all that were imposed. Now, the other students laughed at her. They called her names because she was wearing things that were below the knee and well covered, because that's just the home she came out from. That's all she knew. And people laughed. And then some of the lecturers would look at her, they would call her and say, this is really strange. How do you dress this way? She said, but that's the only way I know. Now, she could have succumbed to peer pressure, and then maybe decided to change her dressing in order to conform, in order not to be laughed at, in order not to be ridiculed. But she carried on. But not everyone has that willpower, that's strength of character to be able to say, no, this is what I stand for, and this is how I'm going to present myself. Many don't have that.
All right, we've got some messages coming through on WhatsApp. This one is from Sheyi, and he says, I wonder if some universities prepare students for adulthood or for an extended childhood. How can you transition young adults into mainstream adult society when you design policies and systems that make it impossible to wean them from their parents? Agree that our society is peculiar, especially with security, but there are smarter ways of achieving the goal of safety than treating young adults in this way. In some parts of the world, they are the military reserves and are eligible for conscription in wartime. And Ikedia says, a dress code in university is kind of ridiculous. A university is for expressing and exchanging ideas. A dress code is mandatory in prisons, cult gatherings, and armed robbery gang meetings. Humans are the only animals who join existential threats to fight their progeny. Other animals protect their progeny and fight the threats. And Sheyi, a different Sheyi, says, good morning. What I hear from your guest is dressing standards, which should be professional. So rather than enforce the uniforms, the university should focus on maintaining professional dressing practices. All right, thank you for your messages. And we are out of time. The time went by so quickly. But I have to say, though, thank you so much, Lady Jane, for being on the show with us this morning and sharing your thoughts and, of course, the perspective of your university as well. And my final question, do you think there is, how have the students who have resumed school reacted to this new policy change? Are they adapting? Are people struggling with, obviously, they have to, for some people who had a different dress sense and style, it means they're going to spend more money because they have to now adhere to something. So how has the response been?
What was added, we already had the dressing, the uniform, we already had that, so the other additional things were like no false eyelashes, colored hair, and all those things, those were the additional things. And a number of them are not too happy, while some are okay with it, and it wasn't just the students alone, but also the staff, so, and then
Okay, so staff also now have a dress code.
Just not that you have to wear a particular thing, but you can also wear colored hair, because you cannot possibly tell students don't use colored hair, and then members of staff come with colored hair. I mean, so it makes a real mockery of the entire thing. So it takes adjusting to, and well, but one thing I would take home is we would look at this again and see how certain things can be fine-tuned, so as not to become so restricted. And then also we have to also put something in place to measure the effect of this new dress code. So those are the two things that I'm taking away with me with this interview. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lady Jane. Lady Jane is from the Godfrey Okoye University. She's the Director of Student Mentorship and Parent Relations, and also the Head of Admissions. It's been an enlightening conversation, and it's nice to know that this conversation has perhaps helped in some way to see the concerns of other Nigerians, potential parents and students, and take their concerns back. So thank you so much, Lady Jane, for being on the show with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Have a beautiful day ahead.
And you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that is it for Lagos Talks and the Smooth Breakfast here on Smooth 98.1. Thanks for being here with me. I'm back tomorrow from 6 a.m. Strictly Soul starts up in just a